for coming. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come and listen today. My name is Pam Goodman. I'm an educational consultant. I was born in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, between Toronto and Buffalo, New York. When I was a child, my mother told me that I taught myself how to read. So when I got to kindergarten, I could read and write. And the reason I tell you that is because I was born with the love of learning. I skipped some grades, I got all A's, I went to college and love learning. I even today still, I'll learn from something from today as well. And so I ended up getting a teacher degree and a business degree, and then afterwards I started my master's degree and I got hired by Nortel and they paid for my master's in business, and I ended up staying at Nortel, so I actually never went into the classroom. But I ended up being there for about 15 years, and then when Nortel started downsizing, my family started upsizing, and I had a girl, and then 6 weeks before my son was born, when Nortel was closing down, I got laid off. So I was quite excited that I could stay home with my kids, and they were starting to enter school and stuff, but I was also a little bit upset that I wasn't working anymore. But basically my reason is I love learning. I have a teacher background, and my children have been through elementary, middle school, and my daughter's in high school, my son's in middle school. So I know what parents are experiencing, and I was able to work with my children and teach them things. And my daughter went from a first grade reading level to a fifth grade reading level in one day. I know exactly why. My son could count to 100 at 1. I know exactly why. So I'm hoping that I can help parents with all my experiences and my teacher background to get their children to be the best they can be. So that's the beginning. So, have you ever had a job you hated, frustrated and overwhelmed most of the time, not super comfortable with your boss, and spent most of your free time trying to find another job? Okay, I have. Now imagine the job of a student, frustrated and overwhelmed most of the time, not super comfortable with their teacher, and know they have this job for the next 12 years. This is really important to me. My children have left that age and now they're independent and know how they learn, but I care so much about children that I'm trying to start a movement so this won't happen for your child or any child. So the solution is educate yourselves on how children learn. So as I told you, my daughter went from a first grade reading to a fifth grade reading in one day, and I know exactly why. My son could count to 100 at 1. I've volunteered in classrooms, I've tutored children and families, and I've seen these multisensory solutions just blossom with children. The other reason you would want to know how your children learn as a parent is if your child is not an auditory learner and you keep telling them to do something and they don't do that, you are producing shame in your child because they can't please you because they're not an auditory processor. So that's why I think it's important for parents to understand how their children learn. So I have 3 concepts that I want you to embrace, or I hope that you'll embrace after today. And the first one is parents are teachers. So if you embrace that you're their teacher, you teach them the common stuff like getting dressed, going potty, those kinds of things. But if you also consider managing your emotions, so if your child is frustrated and overwhelmed and then they shout and then you get frustrated and overwhelmed and then you shout, basically you're teaching them when you're frustrated and overwhelmed, you shout. So parents or teachers is a critical concept that I'm hoping that you embrace. The second concept is everything is a skill, everything. So if you embrace that concept, making decisions is a skill. Brushing your teeth is a skill. Managing your emotions is a skill. Because I do this as a living and I love it so much, I notice skills that people are doing all the time. And I met this woman who was predisposed to anxiety and depression. And she grew up genetically predisposed, and she grew up with modeling of how that works. So when she was 39, she was on prescription drugs, not happy, and she told me that she went to a Christian counselor and they taught her how to capture her thoughts and replace them with healthy ones. Well, because she's predisposed, she had a lot of unhealthy thoughts. And she did that for a year, that skill, and practiced it every day. And after 1 year, she was off prescription. and not depressed anymore. So that, to me, the concept of everything is a skill, managing your thought life is a skill. The third concept I would like you to embrace is notice. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and if you speak about your child's weakness in front of your child to other people, other adults, because you love your child and you want to help, you're actually making their weakness bigger. So as a parent, that's something that you're doing that is not healthy for your child. And if your child brings that shame into the classroom, there's not much a teacher can do. The other thing I would like you to notice, and I apologize, is when you're worried about your child and the teacher's worried about your child, the child looks to all the adults around them. And if all the adults are worried about your child, the child's going to think there's something to be worried about. So if you embrace that everything is a skill and everything can be taught, from social skills to managing your emotions to getting dressed, anything can be taught. And I believe I could help with that. And the last thing is if, as a parent, if you looked your child in the eye and you told them you were proud of them and they looked down, that typically means that they have some shame. And so if you practice that skill of looking your child in the eye and they look you back in the eye and they say thank you, that's confidence building. And that can be taken into the classroom. So the next part is learning styles. So I'm sure everybody's heard of auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. So auditory is where you hear it and you process it better and quicker. Visual is you see it and you process it better and quicker. And kinesthetic is when you do it in typing, handwriting, physically do it in kinesthetic learning. I have met many men who will look down and say, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And I've had other people, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And so if you embrace that everyone has learning styles and everyone is different, and instead of being, I have this, I'm a kinesthetic learner, I'm a verbal processor, whatever it may be, I'm hoping that we can change the labels that we use on how we describe ourselves. But you may not be aware that there's a doctor named Dr. Howard Gardner. He created the multiple intelligences theory. There's 8 that he tested, and that everyone has intelligence. And they use it through musical and social and logical and language. And so he doesn't believe it's just auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. And I know how to apply his intelligences, and I've seen powerful things happen. Plus, I think many of us are multisensory. I don't think we're just singular. I think that we need to see it and hear it, and maybe see it, hear it, and do it. So I'm not sure if you knew about learning styles, but that's a little bit about that. So the power of color. I'm told that this is something that's taught in master's level education. We have a lot of first-year teachers today who are fleeing. The teachers are fleeing the industry because we're not paying them. So now they're recruiting college graduates to get 5 weeks of training for Teach for America to be a teacher. And so these teachers don't have time and training or masters. So I feel like parents should know some of these skills so that they can help their child. So this word right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words, it's 24 letters. There is not one space in this, and it's connecting the dots for kids. If that resonates with your child, what you can do is you can buy a $2.41 pack of colored dry erase markers, and you can give it to your teacher, and now when she's at the board, she can use color and it can pop for your child. This can be used for math, it can be used for any subject, spelling, anything that you need to make it pop for a child, it'll pop. The power of tools. So this is a visual tool. And so why is this important? Well, if you're a visual learner, this is 1,000 bits of information in one graphic image. 4 quarts in a pint, 4 quarts in a gallon, 2 pints in a quart. I mean, you could take a half gallon. I use this at the grocery store. I don't know if anyone can see, but that is 1,000 bits of information. And my child had a teacher who took multisensory color and structure, and she had the children kinesthetically draw it out using color and verbalizing it and the whole piece. And then before the EOGs, when the kids are stressed because they want to do well, she taught them to draw this when it's time to start. So at the very beginning, they would have that. And when they were tired with the test or whatever, they had some powerful tool to help them. The power of multiple intelligences. Why would a parent care? So this is pi. Pi is a long number. Most girls are typically gifted in language. They like to talk things out. Most men are very logical. I'm not saying that everybody's that way. But this is an example where you can use one of the multiple intelligences to learn math. So pi is something that your child will learn in middle school. And on March 14th, every year, there's a party. People are wearing t-shirts, they have pi on them, there's a big party. March 14th is the third month. March 14th is the 14th day, and after lunch is 159. So this number is 3.14159. Your child will know pi, they won't have to worry about numbers if numbers aren't their gift. It's an easy way to learn something that might be difficult for a child. So the power of educating yourself. So what I hope to have is we have a lot more good days under our belt because we know how we learn. If the child's a verbal processor, that they're speaking it out like they need to, and there's a way to speak it in your head, and I can help with that. But there's good days. There's no perfect teacher. There's no perfect parent. There's no perfect child. Somebody might have the flu. There might be a substitute. The kid might not be feeling well. So they will have bad days like we all do. But when they have 80% of them being good days, they can bounce back better. But if all their days are bad, it's hard to bounce back because hard becomes like a mountain. So I have created tools for parents based on all my experience in education. And I've written books, homework hassles. If there's homework hassles in the home, usually it's three ingredients: the parent, the child, and the teacher. If the child is not teaching your child the way they learn, they cannot recall the lesson. If the child is a perfectionist and doesn't want to put a little effort, that's a problem. If the parent overreacts and doesn't just validate, saying, I'd be frustrated too, but let's try it, that could be the third. And there's many more. I have like 100 tips in there of what you can do to eliminate homework hassles. This book is the multiple intelligences, the learning styles, color, perfectionism, structure. I had a child read this book, How to Be the Best Student You Can Be. He was a C student. I never spoke with him. He's an A student after reading it. He said, I didn't realize I was talking too much, because when you're talking, you're not listening. I didn't realize about taking breaks and all the tips I had in there. I envisioned this book. Parents read it with their child, and then they give it to the teacher, and then it becomes something the teacher uses, and so that classroom management and learning can happen because everyone understands their job. This book, The Visual Guide, I put a strong component of something you need to learn. Preschool, how to manage your emotions, calming down, coping skills. Kindergarten, how to count to 100. I have a tool in there that's downloadable, and you can teach your child how to count 100, and I taught someone in 5 minutes using colors and patterns. Second grade is confidence and reading strategy. Third grade is the Gallon G and the pressure of the EOGs and some really fun books to eliminate the stress. Fourth grade is long division. I've had this tool on the steps to long division, and I've had 500 downloads on a paid teacher's site with wonderful feedback. The concept is you download this, it clicks with your child, you give it to the teacher, and the teacher might not use that, but now she has the concept. Oh, color, structure, and if it doesn't get used, that's still okay, but at least the homeschool connection is tight. So I offer consulting, tutoring, professional development, workshops. I have downloadables. I would love to be like an interventionist in the school because a lot of the behaviors our kids don't really understand and they're frustrated.
When I was reading the books, I wished that my mom had had these tools when I was a student. See, I learned different. And I've struggled all through my education and all through my career paths as well, trying to figure out how to get what I know's inside outwardly. And it's a lot of work. And Pam makes it simple. I also was a teacher. I taught third grade, and taking how I learned different and trying to make me as a teacher effective and watching children that were struggling in the traditional classroom setting. And I wanted to have resources to help these children understand they are smart. They just learn differently. and to help their parents who were also frustrated and didn't want to label their child as not a smart student, and they are smart.
The information that she provides through these books can be so beneficial to not only parents, but students and teachers as well, and also the administrative staff. Knowing how children learn differently and being able to teach them in a way that they will learn the best way possible is a huge value for children and the educational system. Being able to read that and learn that for yourself, that's powerful stuff.
A theme that I saw running through Pam's books is the relationship, the collaboration between parents and the educator and the student. So I think that also embodies what Pam represents. And as an educator myself and a parent, I know how important that relationship is. So I commend her for having that as an integral part of her books.
Before her books, I used to get all C's. I never did homework. I used to hate it. I used to keep it in my book bag. One of her books was Her Hassle that helped me out. Ms. Goodman wrote about taking breaks and taking your time on it. So I was reading under my grade level, no A's or B's, but now I'm on the A/B honor roll. If you want to get good grades like me, I encourage you to read this book.
As an administrator, it's important for us to engage our families. It's something that we strive to do to empower and enable our parents to work collaboratively with our schools to mutually benefit their child. And in reading Ms. Goodman's books, I think they do a really good job of simplifying that and giving parents strategies to actively engage themselves in their child's education the right way. Parents can read that in a day and then start to work with their school to implement those strategies. I found them helpful for when I have conversations with our parents, using some of those strategies to help empower them. This is about our children's educations, and these books are a useful tool at a reasonable price and an easy read, so it's an easy way to go out and help your kids.
The visual guide has just been released. It's 2 minutes old. It's not up on Amazon, and so the video was done right before that. So what's next? So when my children's teacher and I were on the same page and we collaborated, my kids went like this, flew. When I had years where the teacher and I did not collaborate, my kids went like this. It was awful. So my hope is that you will empower your child with skills and confidence by educating yourself on how children learn. One woman read Unleash Your Child's Potential. She was a corporate executive, and she goes, wow, I need to see it, say it, and do it. And then she said, I noticed, wow, my kid needs to see it, say it, and do it. And her kid got a diagnosis. Well, she started teaching him some academics, and he was loving learning. And now when he goes to kindergarten, she can tell her teacher that he needs to see it, say it, and do it. A teacher cannot meet his needs every single day. She might have the flu, she has 25 kids, but now she knows how to supplement so the child will never get behind. So I'm hoping that the books, I've made them as inexpensive as I can, $10 for 10 minutes. Each book, read it yourself, read it with your child, and then give it to your child's teacher, and then download any of the pre-made materials that work for your child and give it to your child's teacher. If you want to start this movement with me, I'm a small business. I would like to spread the word so that all parents become empowered and children get empowered and our school systems stop the testing, because the testing is accountability for the school, not for your child, but pressure gets pushed down to your child. So I'm hoping to restart and love public school again through parents getting involved. But if you want to join the movement while we help spread the word, if you could help me with more meetings and setting something up, I will be giving you a free 1-hour consulting with you and your child to help spread this word so that our children can unleash their child's potential and see them how we see them at home.